Here's a number that honestly made me angry when I first saw it. Americans throw away nearly 60 million tons of food every single year. That's roughly 40% of our entire food supply just gone. And you know what makes up more than a third of all that waste? Fruits and vegetables, that bag of celery you bought for one recipe 3 weeks ago, that's now a sad, slimy mess in the back of your fridge. Yeah, you're not alone. We've all been there. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be this way. Today, I'm going to walk you through 3 frozen vegetable protocols that can genuinely change how your kitchen works. We're talking less waste, less money spent, less stress on weeknights, and honestly, food that tastes way better than you'd expect from something that came out of your freezer. And I actually ran taste tests to prove it, which we'll get to. But first, I need to bust a myth that keeps people from even trying this. Most of us grew up believing that frozen vegetables are somehow the nutritionally inferior cousin of fresh ones. Like, if you're buying frozen, you're settling. But the science tells a completely different story. A study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry by researchers at UC Davis looked at vitamin retention across 8 different fruits and vegetables. Things like broccoli, spinach, carrots, peas, and corn. What they found was pretty eye-opening. The vitamin content of frozen produce was comparable to, and sometimes even higher than fresh produce. Frozen broccoli, for example, actually had more riboflavin than its fresh counterpart. And here's the kicker: when fresh vegetables sit in your refrigerator for 5 days, which, let's be real, is totally normal, they actually lose more nutrients than frozen ones do. So that fresh broccoli you bought last Tuesday, by the time you get around to cooking it on Sunday, the frozen bag might have been the smarter choice all along. Now, the reason frozen vegetables hold up so well comes down to some really cool food science, and understanding this is going to help you freeze your own vegetables way more effectively at home. When vegetables are frozen, 2 types of damage happen inside them. The first is chemical. As water crystallizes, enzymes and reactive molecules in the plant cells get concentrated, and they start doing weird things, causing discoloration, off flavors, that kind of stuff. The second type of damage is physical. Those ice crystals actually puncture the cell walls, which is why frozen vegetables can sometimes come out a little limp or watery when you thaw them. But here's where it gets interesting. You can massively reduce both types of damage with one simple step: cooking the vegetable before you freeze it. When you blanch, boil, or fry a vegetable before freezing, the heat inactivates those troublemaking enzymes, which prevents the discoloration and flavor loss. And from a physical standpoint, cooking pre-softens the cell walls and drives out excess water. So there's just less water available to form damaging ice crystals. That's what people actually mean when they say blanching locks in the color and flavor. It's not some vague kitchen wisdom, there's real chemistry behind it. So let's get into the protocols, starting with the one that has honestly surprised me the most. I call it the frozen aromatic protocol. Think about how often you chop garlic, dice onions, or mince ginger when you cook. It's basically every single meal, right? This protocol is dead simple. You prepare your aromatic vegetables in bulk, freeze them in ice cube trays, and then pop out a cube whenever you need it. I made a tray with 3 different mixes: a garlic ginger paste for Indian dishes, a classic French mirepoix of carrot, celery, and onion, and a Cajun holy trinity with bell pepper, onion, and celery. And you know what the best part is? 12 days later, that ice cube tray still smelled incredibly fresh and aromatic. To test this, I made 2 batches of tomato sauce, one with freshly minced mirepoix and one with the frozen cube version. I did a blind taste test, and I genuinely could not tell which was which. Both were just really good tomato sauces. The aromatic base is playing a supporting role in a dish like that. So the subtle differences from freezing become basically undetectable. Now there's a key call out here. This protocol works beautifully for dishes where aromatics are in the background, your sauces, curries, broths, stews, rice dishes. Where I wouldn't use it is for raw applications, or where you want the aromatic front and center. Fresh garlic in a panzanella salad, for example, has that pungent bite from allicin that forms when you first cut it, and a frozen cube just won't replicate that, but for 95% of your weeknight cooking. Game changer. And honestly, the biggest benefit isn't even the time savings, it's that it lowers what I call activation energy. Getting started cooking after a long day is the hardest part, and when you know you can just pop a cube into a pan instead of breaking out the cutting board and knife, it removes that friction. You actually end up cooking more. Protocol 2 takes it a step further: freezing prepped vegetables to use as main components in your dishes. This is where things like roasted sweet potatoes, stir-fry mixes, or frozen peas for your pasta come in. The key here, based on the science we just talked about, is to cook or blanch your vegetables before freezing. I par-cooked some Japanese sweet potatoes, froze them on a flat baking sheet, and then bagged them. Now, I can pull out a handful anytime, toss them with olive oil and garlic powder, and have an incredible side dish in about 10 minutes. I also ran a head-to-head test here. I made chicken fried rice, one batch with all fresh vegetables, and one with everything pulled from the freezer, and I noticed something fascinating while cooking. The frozen vegetables released more water initially, which you'd expect given the cell wall damage from freezing. But they also got better browning because the moisture hitting the hot pan created more of those sticky caramelized bits that actually make fried rice taste amazing. In the blind taste test, I got it wrong. I thought the frozen version was the fresh one. Both were genuinely delicious. A quick note on what works best here. Starchy vegetables are your sweet spot. Potatoes, beans, corn, peas, cauliflower, broccoli. These hold up really well through the freeze-thaw process, especially when blanched first. Leafy greens won't work for salads, obviously, but frozen spinach is still perfect for creamed spinach or saag paneer, where it's getting cooked down anyway. And if you vacuum seal or remove as much air as possible from your freezer bags, these can last 2 to 3 months at peak quality, and honestly up to 8 months or more for starchy vegetables that don't have a lot of delicate aroma to lose. And that brings us to Protocol 3, which might be the easiest of all: full freezer meals. This is just taking the vegetables from Protocol 2 and using them to make complete dishes that you freeze and reheat later. I took my frozen sweet potatoes, carrots and cauliflower and made a Thai curry, then froze individual portions. Coming home after a busy day, all I had to do was microwave that curry, grill up a quick chicken thigh, scoop some leftover rice, and I had a genuinely amazing weeknight dinner in about 10 minutes. No decision fatigue, no last-minute grocery run, no sad takeout container. Here's what I really want you to take away from all of this. You don't have to do all 3 protocols at once. Start with one. Maybe grab an ice cube tray this weekend and make a batch of garlic ginger paste. See if you actually use it. Because the real magic happens when you stack these together. Frozen aromatics going into dishes made with frozen vegetables that become frozen meals. Each layer saves you time, money, and mental energy. And look, these aren't going to produce 100% identical results to cooking everything fresh from scratch. But if you can get 80 to 90% of the way there, and the trade-off is that you actually cook a real meal tonight instead of ordering delivery for the 3rd time this week, that's a trade-off worth making. The research backs it up. The taste tests back it up. Your wallet will definitely back it up. If this changed how you think about your freezer, hit subscribe, because every week I break down food science like this: real research, practical tips, zero fluff, just stuff you can actually use in your kitchen tonight. I'll catch you in the next one.